I went to the theaters to see Fantastic Four on opening night, and after waiting many, many years since the failed Fan-4-stick fan fiction film from Fox, I can say perhaps I missed the Fox movies because I was severely underwhelmed with this film due to many reasons, mostly due to a rushed script, a failed character arcs, and just honestly a run-of-the-mill villain who was way overhyped in the marketing and from the fans, comic book fans especially, who were very excited because Galactus was comic accurate, but he looks comic accurate. He feels comic accurate for a few moments here and there, and then he turns into an absolute dumbass for what is only described as a quintessential Marvel superhero film third act. Yeah, there's a lot of ideas in this movie, guys, that are worth exploring. The family aspect of the Fantastic Four, the conundrum of having to give up a child to save the universe, and also the idea of a fantastical, giant, unstoppable force that is Galactus and his place in the universe. But that is left behind for what I said, yet again, is a lackluster third act. There's one single reason why this third act works better than a lot of Marvel films or superhero films in general, but it's a cheap trick. And we'll go over that in the spoiler section. Right now, this is just a spoiler-free rant. Now, I say this movie was mid, guys. Do not take that the wrong way. For me, mid is a movie I can have fun watching the first time. I'm engaged. But when I go back a second time, I feel myself wanting to leave the theater earlier and earlier. The rewatchability on this movie is slim to none. The script is not that deep. You might pick up a few cute details here and there that you missed on the first time because this movie is so fast. I think this movie comes in at under 2 hours, which is, for a Marvel film, not too hot. You want more out of these characters, especially with a team ensemble. It looks like this film was highly chopped to bits in the editing bay, especially when it comes to the third act and especially when it comes to developing the Fantastic Four in the intro. I looked it up. The film with credits is 1 hour and 55 minutes. So yeah, it's under 2 hours. Thunderbolts was 2 hours and 6 minutes, and Superman was 2 hours and 10 minutes. And just like Superman, this film felt rushed, at least in the editing. I guess in the storytelling too. What can I say? The film was rushed. When it comes to the characters, I do find myself not hating them, but I don't find myself, I don't know, rooting for them for the next installment in the Avengers series, which is what this film leads up to. So not sure what we're doing here with these characters. They're supposed to be some of the new peak leaders of the MCU. And after coming out of this, I don't feel that they are strong enough to toe the line. Although Ben Grimm can certainly toe lines. Dude's strong, okay? He's strong. The standout character of this film, as many will tell you on YouTube and in out-of-theater reactions, is Johnny Storm. While he has little to do, he does serve a very important function to the plot. The one thing I'm missing from Johnny Storm is his real-world interactions. The team rarely interacts with the real world outside of press screenings and a TV show. They do save some people here and there in the short-lived action sequences, but most of the saving is left up to a plot gimmick that was set up in 30 seconds within the first part of the movie, and we'll go over that in spoilers. Despite telling us that the world is full of love for the Fantastic Four, we barely get to see it despite outside of a few, like I said, television sequences and, I don't know, hastily cut together action sequences. The beginning of this film honestly felt like the opening to a Fantastic Four video game, with the CGI being decent at best, but also the action being middling. There's not a single action scene that I recall from this superhero movie that stands out to me compared to the last 4 or 5 Marvel films. I mean, in Thunderbolts, we had that epic car chase sequence with Bucky. That's going to be an iconic scene in a lot of people's minds, and I don't think that kind of scene is even in this movie. People are going to say the CGI looks great. Yes, for the most part, a lot of the CGI is believable. But honestly, the one thing they messed up was the one thing they needed to not fuck up, and that was Ben Grimm. I felt at times he was literally in a video game. There was times when his clothes looked like they were in GTA 5 and not playing on PC. I was seeing the film with a friend. He looked over at me. He's like, they fucked up. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, the CGI. He doesn't even watch movies like that, but he could tell something was off with the Thing. I think for me, coming from someone who watched the 2005 film, and I got that sense of reality out of that Ben Grimm and his portrayal of the Thing with the costume version, I feel like coming from that sharp image in my mind to this new CGI world really threw me off. I wish there was a little more practical elements applied when it came to the Thing. I feel like they could have worked out how to make a hybrid of practical and CGI, and maybe they did, but they didn't pull it off. That was one thing that really took me out of the film. Also, going back to characters with Ben Grimm, we get barely anything for him. He has a semi-romantic interest going on that goes nowhere. He has the tiniest of character arcs by way of growing a beard, and also by way of something I'll tell you in the spoilers, which honestly I can tell you right now because it barely affects the film. Seriously, what's up with the characters in this movie? They're likable but not developed. We literally do not get to see them completely interact with the full world outside of tiny sequences. It's very disappointing. Johnny Storm doesn't even have any fan interactions. He has there's this one girl who like oogles at him on a newscast or something like that. Outside of that, we are told who he is rather than shown who he is, at least for his personality part. Yes, he is quippy, he is funny, he is sassy, and he eats a lot. Cool. Give us a little bit more than that. He's a good guy, though, when it comes down to it. He does make a very important play in the plot that is thwarted by the end. He's the heart and soul of the film, basically, is what I'm saying. And I think they wanted it to be Sue, which brings me to Sue. She is supposed to be the heart and soul of this movie, but her and Pedro Pascal are so flat, I couldn't tell the difference between them and a 2x4. I don't know, shitty joke, but I digress. Pedro Pascal is absolutely fine in this movie. The Fantastic Four are absolutely fine in this movie. And characters, when it comes to characters, there's one I forgot, the fifth member of the Fantastic Four, not the baby, Herbie, the robot that sounds like Wall-E. And yeah, he sounds like Wall-E and he does cool things. I don't know, top 3 character in the movie just because he's fun. But honestly, I don't know how they understand his language. They've built like a whole new language for him that only the Fantastic Four can understand. Interesting enough, I guess. I feel like they wanted this robot to be the next cool thing, the next Wall-E, and it's just a knockoff Wall-E. Not directly rip-off of Wall-E, but the spirit of Wall-E. That type of robot character, that type of cute, fun, want to help the team, want to do the best kind of character. There's shadows of it in Herbie, but it just feels so forced to sell merchandise. Even though I know it was original part of the comics, it just felt weird. Maybe I'm just getting old. Who knows? But Herbie was fine. He was fine. Just like the rest of this movie, it's fine. It's going to make money. Will it make its money back? I'm not sure. Now, as far as the story goes, I've told you a little bit about the characters, guys. The story hinges on Johnny Storm and Sue Storm. They are what I would say are the solving factors of this formula that is the new Fantastic Four movie. Also, Shalabal, Silver Surfer, she has an entire portion of the plot where she's just gone just cause, and she comes in at the perfect moment, if you will. And it just felt like, hey, we need to put her away in the script until we can use her to solve the script later on. So I guess it's the main 3, Johnny Storm, Silver Surfer, and Sue Storm, who are basically the ones who solve this plot. We get a little help from Reed Richards by way of science, but his character is mostly boring. Pedro Pascal. We're circling back to characters real quick. Mr. Fantastic, his powers do not get to be used basically at all. He stretches a few times here and there. He literally gets stretched out as a joke in the movie. And I don't understand why they had so many iterations of Fantastic Four prior to this, both on film, on television, in comics, whatever you want to say. There's a lot of Fantastic Four lore to pull from when it comes to using their powers. And I felt like their powers were severely underused for the most part. There's a moment in the film where it seems like they're trying to overtly tell the audience that we should care more about his brain than his power, than his body, if you will. But again, we want to see the powers. We come to these superhero movies to see super fantastic moments, and there wasn't many in this film. The villain, Galactus. Listen, I said we are going to talk about story. These are how these rants go. I don't know where they're going. They just go. The villain, Galactus. Galactus was scary for 30 seconds until you realize he's a giant retard. He's basically just a fat, old, lazy, giant, interdimensional, galactic, hybrid robot monster guy who wants to eat planets until he gets too tired to carry on. We don't find out much about his character outside of a few lines when the Fantastic Four interact with him. I really started to get my brain going when we met Galactus. That's when the movie started to kick in for me, which is what the movie wanted to do, but it failed to fall through. It failed to follow through on the depth of the character behind Galactus and the depth of the character interaction and the conundrum that he puts the Fantastic Four in. This film has a lot of similar problems to Superman, especially when it comes to pacing, editing, depth of character, character arcs, and also the believability of the actual world surrounding the events of the film. Everybody in Superman and Fantastic Four, the actual average person, the NPCs, the background people, the world that is supposed to support your characters feels fake. It feels like a forced stage play where somebody gets told that this is what they should do, so they do it with no agency, no thought, nothing. It's like a puppeteer is controlling the crowd in this movie, and not in a good way, because there's some pretty cool puppeteers out there, I think, I hope. It's a lost art. It's a dying art. Now, what do I mean by all this? Guys, you're not going to know until I really go into spoilers. So right now, we're going to jump into spoilers. You've been warned. The film actually opens with a quite quiet and intimate moment between Mr. Fantastic and Susan Storm, which she never changes her name. She's married to Reed, but she doesn't change her name. It's happened in the comics. Reed Richards, Sue Richards, they just keep the different names. Whatever, different universe, doesn't matter. Anyways, Sue Storm is pregnant, which is going to be the crux of the film. Obviously, if you've seen the marketing, they've released a bunch of clips from the Galactus return. They've released a bunch of clips, talking about the child that is basically the crux of this film. We get to see the relationship between Vanessa Kirby's character and Pedro Pascal's character play out on screen, and it's just uninspiring. It feels like a Hallmark romance. It's fine. They're together. They love each other. Yes. It doesn't bother me, but it doesn't inspire me. Now, after the pregnancy scene, the film goes full superhero and it cuts into the Fantastic Four montage seen somewhat through a TV sequence. They're on a talk show with somebody, some Gilbert guy, the guy who holds his hand like this in the trailers, that guy. Okay. And you've seen almost all the clips from this guy in the trailers, in the marketing releases. So I was left mostly underwhelmed by this sequence, especially because the action they show the Fantastic Four doing is so quick. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, these are our heroes. They went to space. Now they have powers. At literally one point, the movie literally says, and they came back with superpowers. It felt like a Saturday morning cartoon, but not in the way that I want. It felt like this movie was made for 4-year-olds, and then at times it was made for 24-year-olds. Not the tone, but I guess the depth of writing was all over the place, and they almost struck gold here and there, but they missed the point and went home for beer. They were right there at the edge of the mine, and they got tired and gave up, or they just, they didn't have the strength to follow through with the next stroke. What am I doing with this gold mining sequence? I don't know. Anyways, we see the Fantastic Four set up through a sequence of TV montages where they're saving people. Yes, they do save people. They are superheroes. At one point, Reed Richards kicks a gorilla off a bridge. Johnny Storm absorbs fire into his body, which was probably the coolest Johnny Storm moment in the entire film. Sue Storm, she saves a globe from falling on somebody. All the typical things. Ben Grimm does the Henry Cavill Superman boat pole move. Basically, half of that you've seen in trailers and in marketing releases. So the introduction to the Fantastic Four was severely underwhelming. We don't even get to see them get their powers, okay? They go to space off screen. They land off screen, and the film says they came back different, and you see Ben Grimm punch out the window on the spaceship that landed off screen. So their whole setup was a big cuck, because you thought we were going to, no matter how short-lived it was, you thought we were going to see the actual development of their powers. No, they tease us, they skip over it off screen, and then they have powers. It's like, why even make that sequence if you're not going to go all the way with it? You had the time. I know you did. I guarantee you half of that was on the cutting room floor. We could have used it. I'm just saying. We could have used it. Anyways, that's the intro of the movie. The Fantastic Four are now the Fantastic Four, and we're into this world. Now, the main conflict is introduced by way of a signal that Reed Richards picks up and does absolutely nothing with because he can't understand it at first. So he gives the signal to Johnny, the, quote, dumbest member on the team, typically, to play with, I guess, because Reed is bored of it. Literally, Reed gets the biggest clue in the universe and hands it off to Johnny so he can go work on detecting anomalies in his baby, which I guess is fine. He cares more about the kid than solving this crazy problem. They basically gave a Reed Richards level problem to Johnny Storm's character to solve. Realistically, it would have been Reed Richards solving this problem, but because of the interactions that Johnny Storm has with Silver Surfer in this plot, he's able to make use of this signal. And this signal was sent, I believe, forgive me if I'm wrong, the signal was sent by Silver Surfer herself. Not quite sure how it was sent. I missed that. That part is glossed over in the film so fast, but it's important to know that Reed gets a signal from outer space. He puts it on a little record, records it on a record in 60s fashion, and hands the record to Johnny because he can't figure it out or he doesn't care enough to figure it out. So yeah, now Johnny's on a mission to figure out what this secret message from the universe actually means. And it's funny, the similarities between Superman and Fantastic Four have already started. So we have our heroes already in place. They've been active this time for 4 years compared to Superman for 3 years. And there is a message from a outside universal source that can't be quite fully decrypted or translated that will heavily affect the plot later in the movie. Sound like Superman? I'm describing Fantastic Four. It's crazy. If you break it down, these movies are nearly 50% identical, both in storytelling style and plot beats. Crazy. What else do we have? Anyways, back to the plot. Now, Reed Richards is doing testing on his son to see if he has superpowers because, you know, him and Sue made the baby. They have powers. You know the deal. He's trying to figure out what kind of Incredibles Jack situation is going to come out of this superhero birth. Is that a thing? Whatever. Basically, he's trying to figure out if he has the next Jack on his hands or not. Seemingly, his tests prove that he's just a normal kid. No genetic anomalies, no nothing. Normal kid. Reed is also doing tests to figure out teleportation using an egg, but he can't seem to find the amount of power needed to truly make teleportation work in this universe. That's an important thing. He teleports an egg at one point and the entire power grid of New York City shuts off. So he has Johnny Storm light up, flame on, and he goes and resets the breakers. That might have been the most cute, like, Fantastic Four interaction moment in the entire film. I love that part. That part really just got me going, you know? Little body humor interaction with Johnny, you know, lights are out. We need a guy who can make light. Cool. Good job, Marvel. Need more of those moments. What am I saying? I'm just rambling at this point. Anyways, we see the Fantastic Four going about their days. We get a Ben Grimm scene where he is getting cookies. He walks back from the bakery and he shows off his powers to a bunch of kids by lifting up the car. Kind of like Mr. Incredible in The Incredibles. Only that scene was better. It's like everything this movie wanted to do, it was already done better in Brad Bird's and Pixar's Incredibles. Incredibles remains the best Fantastic Four movie, by the way. I know it's cliche to say on YouTube, but it's kind of true in spirit. But yeah, Ben Grimm is walking back from a cookie shop and he shows off to a bunch of kids. And one of the teachers of these students, I believe, is his love interest. And she says, why don't you come say hi to the kids next time? It's clear Ben Grimm is still a little bit shy about himself. And that's kind of the character arc he likes to keep to himself. He's a shy guy. When he goes out in public, he's wearing, you know, the whole top hat and trench coat look, classic. So his character arc is he starts off kind of shy, and by the end he embraces more of his social side and meets up with the girl. Cool character arc. I don't even know what to say. Like, there's nothing to the characters, most of them. Like Reed Richards' character arc, he starts off smart guy wanting to save the world, and he ends as a smart guy wanting to save the world. Sue Storm starts off as a strong mother wanting to save the world, ends as a stronger mother already saving the world. Johnny Storm has the biggest character arc, but not really. He really starts off the movie and ends the movie the same way, but his big arc is that he actually becomes useful to the team, which we don't ever see him not being useful to the team. So I guess character arc. I'm at a loss here for character arcs, guys. This movie is really flat and it's based on plot and not character. The reason why the characters are likable is almost simply because they aren't hateable. The moments we get with them on screen are filled with levity, yes, but that only goes so far. We need a little more depth from these characters. And I think that was on the cutting room floor. Again, they wanted to get people in and out of this film. Keep those runtimes down, keep the profits up. That's what this movie felt like. Back to Ben Grimm. He has this little cute moment in the street showing off to the kids, meeting his potential love interest, whatever. That part is lackluster to the film at best. In the middle of this film, I'm not going to lie, I get kind of lost as to what actually happens because not much actually goes down. So at this point in the story, we have Ben Grimm doing basically nothing. Reed Richards figuring out teleportation and figuring out if his child has powers or not. And Johnny Storm figuring out how to decode the message that Reed picked up from outer space. And Sue Storm being pregnant. That's what we have so far going on in the film. And at this point, I'm losing a little memory on what happens. But basically, nothing important happens until the Herald of Galactus approaches Earth. Yes, Shalabal, the Silver Surfer. Basically, you've seen this in the trailers. She arrives. She says, you guys are all going to die. Have a nice day. And she dips the fuck out. Johnny Storm chases her, grabs the tip of her board, and she says something in her language to him for whatever reason. She speaks English, but the plot needs her to speak her language. So she says, and this is actually the crux of the entire plot, basically. I use that word too much in this review, but there's a lot of cruxes in this film. There's a lot of things this film hinges on. And one of them is Silver Surfer speaking her language to Johnny Storm for whatever reason. So she says something, she whips him off the board, and then she actually dips the fuck out. Johnny Storm falls back down to Earth, flies to meet the Fantastic Four, and says, she spoke to me. And they're like, yeah, that's great. She spoke to all of us, Johnny. And he's like, no, she said something to me in private. And they don't really take him too seriously, like at all. Like Reed Richards is barely interested. They kind of have this comedic scene where it should have been a really serious scene between Reed and Johnny trying to figure out what she said, why she said it. What does it mean? How can we use this to our advantage? But instead, they use that scene to have a comedy beat where Sue Storm and Ben Grimm are going back and forth trying to figure out what Johnny was feeling in the moment. How did she sound? Was she kind? Was she soft? Was she, whatever. The scene is way overplayed in the comedic tone. And I don't know. It fell flat. Nobody in my theater was laughing at these quips, these little jokes, if you want to call them that. There's not even many jokes in the movie. There's just little quips here and there, like little retorts, little replies, little sassy moments. Yeah. The humor does not really work. It's there for levity's sake and to make you like the characters on a superficial level. But beyond that, it doesn't work. It's not even offensively bad. It's just there. You're like, nice. But yeah, they all have this little talk about what Silver Surfer said. Ultimately, the only one who really ends up caring is Sue Storm, and she pursues that with Johnny later on in the film. There's also a plot point earlier in the movie that I forgot to touch on where Johnny is really wanting Reed to re-up the spacesuits and go back to space. Johnny wants to go back to space. But now that we know Galactus is out in space, it's finally time to make that return. Because Reed Richards decides that, hey guys, screw it. The only way to fix this is just to go visit Galactus. I guess they make that decision on a whim within like 30 seconds of knowing that Galactus is here. Seriously, the movie was like, you need to go to Galactus, so just go to Galactus. There was no debate on that. Really, if there was, it was like 10 seconds on screen. They basically just make the decision instantly to go to Galactus. So a few scenes later, they're suited up and they're ready to go visit Galactus. This is where the film really kicks off. I think this is where the film really wanted to get to. And it got to it fast enough, but it also leaves too fast. And I'll tell you why. So as they go back to space, they make their return. They launch their spaceship out of New York City. Yes, their spaceship literally launches from the New York City Bay. Like, it's crazy. They launch it like hundreds of feet away from civilians and buildings. I guess they're just that confident in their work. Cool. They've mastered space travel, whatever, that's fine. They launch into space, they connect with the hyperspace drive, and they shoot out into space, and they find Galactus because they needed to, and they know where the signal came from. Now, Galactus looks like something out of a Michael Bay's Transformer movie in this. I'm not sure if that's comic accurate or not. Basically, he has a giant world-eating ship. He doesn't actually consume the planets like himself. He has an engine, a ship that does it for him. Very unclear why he needs to do this and how the ship couldn't just run on its own. I don't know. He's like plugged into the ship too. All right, let's recollect our thoughts. They come to Galactus. The Silver Surfer greets them by phasing through the ship and says, "Hey, Galactus wants to speak to you." Reed says, "I'll go." And he says, "No, all of you got to go." There's a moment during this scene where the Silver Surfer is in their ship and they're arriving at Galactus, which is a really cool sci-fi moment. Galactus's beam scans through the ship and lands on Sue Storm's stomach, and it reveals the baby. So you know exactly what his goal is kind of before he even says it, even though the marketing already told you. It's just a really cool use of cinematography and effects and Galactus's power to let you know, like, he's not messing around. He's here for that baby. So they go up to meet Galactus, and on their way, Johnny has a conversation with Silver Surfer, and this is where the movie felt like a cartoon. People like to say it's a good thing, but for me, it just felt really weird. Like, Johnny Storm is clearly just hanging there on wires, like barely moving. Like he's almost like keyframed left and right, and he's just hanging there while him and the Silver Surfer are having a nice little fly down the spaceship inside of Galactus's spaceship. And they're having a cute conversation. He asks what she said to him, and she reveals what she said to Johnny in the message. Something like "die with yours," something like that. Basically like "rest in peace with your family and friends." It's like a farewell message to the people of Earth, to Johnny, basically saying like, you know, count your blessings, your days are near, gather with friends and family, but like in the shortest way possible. That's what she meant when she was speaking in her language to Johnny earlier in the film. So yeah, he gets that reveal of what she said to him. It was basically like "peace be with you" kind of thing. Just a nice little courtesy to Johnny before he dies. But this is very important. This is very important that they have dropped this little nugget in here about the translation of what she said. This is a big plot point, so hold on to that. Now they go up to meet with Galactus finally, and this is where the film gets heavy. Almost. Scientific, universal sci-fi ideas. The idea of this planet-consuming Galactus is very cool. But why? How? We don't dig enough into that specifically, the why and the how. They tell us Galactus must consume, he must feed in order to keep going, but they don't give us any intergalactic universal reasoning or universal law as to why Galactus needs to exist. I guess you don't really need that, but they tease it just enough to where I feel like I was left wanting more. Like I was doing headcanon as a fan in my mind while watching the movie, hoping that they would follow those threads in the film with Galactus, and they just never did. It was very surface level, and it turns into Marvel schlock by the end of the movie. What feels like at first a very heady sci-fi idea turns into Marvel schlock, you know, punch the bad guy out in the final act, which is why this movie was so disappointing for me. They set up something so cool only to just go the typical B-movie Marvel third act route at the end. The one thing that we really do know behind his motivation is why he wants the child. That's the deepest thing they go into when it comes to Galactus, and obviously they needed to. So at bare minimum, they did that. He explains that he needs the child from Sue in order to rest. He needs someone of cosmic power, someone who contains the power cosmic to take his place as Galactus, as the eater of worlds, devourer of worlds. Cool. How is a baby going to do that? I guess we'll find out 15 films later. But for now, he just needs somebody with galactic powers, galactic cosmic level, intergalactic space baby. That's what he needs. A baby with cosmic powers, somebody powerful enough to take over his job so he can retire and watch ESPN and fall asleep to golf on Sundays. I don't know. Galactic seems more human than anything. At one point, he even says he was a human. He was tiny, like the Fantastic Four at one point. How did he get there? Would have loved perhaps an introduction to his backstory in some sort of capacity, because you teased it. You teased it. Maybe they're saving the real Galactus story for later on. That's fine, I guess. But it left me underwhelmed in this film. Now, Galactus himself, very scary, very well done by Ralph Ineson. The voice is good. The character design for the most part is pretty cool. Best CGI I've seen since Michael Bay Transformers, and that's a compliment. That's a compliment when it comes to Galactus. There's some other shaky CGI in this movie, but Galactus is fine for the most part. So the ultimatum is made from Galactus. Look, I'll spare Earth. I'm going to eat Earth, but I'll spare it if you give me the baby. Obviously, they say no. And we get this really cringe line uttered from Pedro, and you'll never have my child. Like, I did not get any sense of strength out of Pedro's character. In the comics, he's supposed to be sort of obviously a super nerd, but he's supposed to have this level of strength and leadership that I just felt lacking out of Pedro's portrayal in this film. He felt like a cardboard cutout of Mr. Fantastic with a Pedro Pascal skin on it. So yeah, he denies Galactus. They get back in the ship. They barely make it. They're able to like physically harm Galactus enough for him to not be able to retaliate fully and kill them. Like Johnny Storm goes through and he breaks a bunch of the connecting tubes that power Galactus or whatever. We don't even know how it works, but he's connected to the ship with these like vacuum tubes that seem to power him up. Johnny Storm breaks all those, and Ben Grimm tackles the Silver Surfer, and they get back into the ship in the nick of time. Cool. You know they're going to escape, right? The movie is only half over. This is where shit hits the fan, though. They get into a chase sequence with Silver Surfer, and they have to do some sort of black hole maneuver where they get the Silver Surfer close enough to a black hole to let her get sucked in and where they can make their escape. Now, this whole time, Sue is peaking on her pregnancy. She's having contractions. The baby is about to be delivered mid-space chase. Crazy. Now, why was the baby all of a sudden needing to be delivered in the middle of this space chase? Why were the Fantastic Four up there with a 9-month or 8-month or whatever super late pregnancy? Why would they send her into space? Because they're the Fantastic Four. Like, this whole, look, call me misogynist or whatever. This whole superhero thing with pregnant women being strong, it's cool. Pregnant women are strong, but they deserve to be treated with care and how do you call it? Delicacy. It's a delicate thing. No matter if you're a superhero or not, I can't stress it enough. It takes me out of the movie when highly pregnant women are on super dangerous missions. I'll go back to an example. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. They had a pregnant Spider-Woman flying around. Like, cool, we get it. Pregnant women can be strong, but it just comes off on screen as stupid as fuck. Misogynist or not, I'm pretty sure a lot of pregnant women would be like, why the fuck is she on that spaceship? Why? Well, because they're the Fantastic Four and she's got to be, and because the movie would be boring and the movie wouldn't really happen correctly if she didn't go to space. So she needs to go to space pregnant. But there's a key reason as to why the baby is being delivered conveniently or inconveniently, suspiciously, at the perfect timing to have like a crazy chase sequence going down while she's giving birth. The main reason, well, outside of the actual story, is that it does make for a pretty compelling sequence. Not only do you have to escape the menacing Silver Surfer and get back to your planet to devise a plan to defeat Galactus, those stakes are high. You also got a pregnant woman giving birth at the same time, so it really elevates that scene to something that goes beyond a simple chase scene. So I like that. It's cool. It's the editing, the acting in it. It's all very dynamic. It serves to make a great, compelling, thrilling action thriller sci-fi sequence that we've never seen before on screen, especially from Marvel. Doing a childbirth in space is crazy for any film, let alone a Marvel film, a family-friendly film, mind you. But the second reason as to why the baby is coming out in space is because Galactus starts giving her contractions. Seriously, at one point, Galactus uses his mind powers to, I don't know, induce contractions in Sue, like he's pulling the baby out himself. Now, the strangest thing happens that completely breaks the entire plot in this movie. Galactus, as I just told you, has some sort of telekinetic powers. Not only do we see him use them on the Silver Surfer in moments, we see him using that on Sue and the baby, but he never uses those powers again. Like, the whole third act would have been ruined if Galactus had used whatever power he was using in the middle of the movie at the end of the movie. They just completely forget that he has this psychic sort of ability, telekinetic, somewhat ability. It's very unclear what this power is, how far the extent of this power goes. But I'm pretty sure I remember him fully stopping the Silver Surfer with his mind at one point. And he 100% gave Sue contractions trying to pull the baby out of her for whatever reason. He has that power. It's established in the movie. So where the fuck did it go? The writers said it was irrelevant for the third act because they needed the movie to work. So cool. They literally just could have taken that out of the film. The film would have been better. Sometimes you need to subtract to make your script better, not add things, especially when you don't know how to manage them. Okay, power scaling, just the powers that your character has. If you can't manage those, don't write them. That simple. Anyways, back to the plot. They escape. Sue gives birth in space. They fling Silver Surfer into a black hole and they escape. They do this because Sue was able to make the ship invisible long enough to make Silver Surfer think they were still heading into the black hole, when in reality they reversed out and they made it out. Silver Surfer gets sucked in. Mr. Fantastic says that it'll take her a month to get out of the black hole. So they bought themselves a month, I guess. Now the Fantastic Four get back to Earth safely with the baby, and they go immediately to a press conference, of course, where everybody's asking how they defeated Galactus. Immediately, Reed Richards says, we didn't. And cool. You didn't want to have like maybe a prepared statement, maybe shut off the press, think about what you're going to say to everybody before you're just going out and saying it. Well, the movie doesn't want to have that time to breathe, so they just jump straight into it and they say, hey, we fucked up. We couldn't defeat Galactus. Also, he wanted our child to save you guys, and we didn't give up the child, so we're all fucked. That's what Reed Richards says on national TV or international TV, global TV. And to be honest, why? Why'd you play all your cards like that, Reed? The smartest man in the world just lays all your cards on the table for the world to see. You've lost the plot, Reed. Come on, man. For the smartest man in the universe, I think maybe it's part of his character. He does not understand social cues and social awareness. I guess that makes sense. I'll give it to him. That's fine. If anybody was going to come out and say that, I think it would have been Reed. So fine. Point is, he tells the whole world that we didn't make the sacrifice for you guys, and they instantly all turn on him. Are you seeing the similarities to Superman yet again? Guys, the entire world in this movie immediately turns on the Fantastic Four with little to no, or I think no debate on whether or not the Fantastic Four are making the right decision. Same thing happened in Superman. They saw one message from Jor-El and completely turned on Superman with no good faith, no factions arguing, no debate socially, nothing. Same thing in Fantastic Four. The entire republic of NPCs immediately gets triggered by the script, and everybody is hating on the Fantastic Four for not giving up the baby to save them. Perfect. Love it. Shitty world building at its finest. Like the world, why are the worlds in these superhero movies coming less and less believable? I miss the Iron Man 1 days where you just felt like the world was there naturally and not a puppet of the script writers. Nowadays, these superhero movies are like bad stage plays where they have a lackluster script and they're just moving around like puppets. That's how I can describe these new wave of superhero movies. Well, especially when it comes to the world building. Obviously, there's a lot of issues with verisimilitude when it just comes to the ideas and the fantastical, for lack of better words, nature of these films. But when it comes to the humanity side of these films, that's where they should thrive. And I feel like they are missing that aspect, especially when it comes to this movie, especially when it came to Superman. The worlds just don't feel real. And not in the way that there wouldn't be able to be a stretchy guy in real life. I mean, just the people of the world don't seem real. Let's see what I'm saying here. Does it make sense? I don't know. I digress. We now have a new problem on our hands as we have to figure out how to defeat Galactus without giving up the baby. This becomes an extreme source of tension for the family for about 30 seconds on screen as we get our first and only combative scene between Sue and Reed. They're having dinner and basically Reed says, look, the only mathematical equation that adds up right now to solve this problem is giving up the child. Now, he's not saying he's going to do it. He's saying at the moment, that's the only solution that can be seen. This pisses off Sue. She goes into full mom rage mode and calls Reed a bad husband, a bad father, just for saying this out loud. Obviously, she's going through some extreme trauma and emotion, so we can't really judge her too much. Fair reaction. The acting is fine in this scene when they debate about it for like 30 seconds. And after this little fight, Sue storms off with the baby. Sue storms off with the baby to go meet the angry mob of people outside the Fantastic Building to show them the child. Now, this is where I felt the movie shined the most in terms of its humanity. It's probably the most like endearing scene in the movie. Might even be the best acting scene in the movie. Vanessa Kirby goes out. She holds her baby to the world. She says some sentimental shit. She says basically, look, guys, I'm not going to give up my family, but my family isn't just this baby. It's the world. And as a world, we're going to work together. We're not going to trade lives. This is the Steve Rogers mentality. This is where I felt that superhero vibe come to life on the screen through Vanessa Kirby. Might be the most superheroic person in this movie. Not the best character, but definitely the most superheroic in terms of her actions, her feats, and her just emotional capacity for humanity. This is where I felt the most emotion in the entire film. So yeah, she confronts the angry mob with her baby out there for everybody to see. Look, he's a child of Earth, just like us. I'm not going to sacrifice my baby, but we will not sacrifice you. That was a great, honestly, a chilling moment in the movie. It kind of got me for a moment. Hands down, got to give it to the writers. Nice little scene. But yeah, basically with a single paragraph, she is able to turn the world around on the view of the Fantastic Four and their approach to solving the Galactus problem. So yeah, now the whole world is on the Fantastic Four's side, and Sue ends up, ironically, solving the problem for Reed. She said something about moving heaven and earth for her child, I believe. And Reed hears this and says, Sue, you've solved it. We're going to move heaven and earth. Well, not heaven. We're going to move Earth away from Galactus, so far away that he won't be able to reach us for millions of years. Obviously, you got to buy into the scientific nonsense of this all for it to even be believable, but that's fine. It's a superhero movie. We can get past that. Cool solution. I really like it. They're going to teleport Earth away from Galactus. Sounds dumb as fuck on paper, but honestly, kind of cool. I'm not going to lie. Kind of cool. So this is where the teleportation plot kicks into play. Reed goes back to test the teleportation again, and this time he's figured out the equation for the amount of power that he's going to need. He sets the world on a mission where, honestly, it's cool that they were able to involve like the entirety of humanity in solving the Galactus problem. That's where the world building kind of shined through in this film. Reed Richards calls upon the planet to not only build these teleportation devices around the world, but to conserve power, to conserve enough energy each and every day to store up, to use these portals. Because when you teleport something, like you teleport an egg and it basically takes the entire power grid of New York City. So yeah, the whole world, there's a montage of the world building these teleportation devices, and there's a montage of the world saving power. And Mr. Fantastic, this is where he's truly becoming a world leader for 30 seconds. He does have those moments in this film, but barely. He's instructing everybody to work together through his news broadcasts, and it's very wholesome, very family-friendly, very superheroic, very Fantastic Four. Probably the most Fantastic Four moment in this film is when they're coming together with the world to solve the problem of Galactus. So yeah, they build the portals, they save the power, and they're ready to move their world to another area in space. So they fire up the portals. The portals are about to be done teleporting Earth, and nope, plan is fucked. Absolutely, by the Silver Surfer. She comes back, she breaks every single teleportation device in the world, except for conveniently the one located in New York, right next to the Fantastic Four's building. Obviously, Johnny Storm, being the only one who can really confront her physically, literally, goes after her, and this is where the movie goes just full retard. Just like Superman, we have yet another similarity. Remember the translated message from Superman? How they were able to get a sentence or two from Jor-El, and then they were able to transcribe an entire language to translate the rest of the message from Jor-El? Well, in this film, the records that Johnny Storm has been studying from Reed, the signal that Reed detected and told Johnny Storm to fuck off with in the beginning of the film, well, that's come back into play. Now, here's how it all works. Okay, I'm gonna break this down. It's not gonna make sense, but I'm gonna break it down. So, Reed and Johnny discover the alien signal, speaking alien languages. Reed gives it to Johnny. Johnny studies it, doesn't know what the fuck it means, meets up with Silver Surfer in the beginning of the movie. She tells him something in her language, conveniently, so that later on in the film, in the middle of the movie when they're meeting Galactus, Johnny can get that message translated by Silver Surfer. So then he can go back home, use the translation to then transcribe through an algorithm the entire language of Shalabal. So one sentence, Johnny Storm, the dumbest guy on the team, was able to use an algorithm to transcribe an entire language and figure out what the signals were saying from the beginning of the film. Now, why did Shalabal need to speak her language to Johnny when they first met? Well, she needed to speak that language because the plot told her to do so, because the plot needed her to translate that language later on so that Johnny could use it to translate an entire language. See what I'm getting at? Like, the characters are just puppets of the scriptwriters, and in an obvious way, it doesn't add up. It doesn't quite make sense. It only makes sense because the movie needs it to. It doesn't feel natural the way the script plays out, and it certainly doesn't feel natural that you can get a single sentence and then transcribe an entire language. So, I digress. Now that we know Johnny has transcribed the entire language and he's going to confront Shalabal yet again after she's destroyed the portals, here's where that all comes into play. Basically, Johnny tracks down the Silver Surfer in the middle of New York and he starts broadcasting the signals on different TV screens that are just placed willy-nilly on apartment buildings all throughout the city. It seems like they were just spawning in new TV screens all around the city. Like there's like a TV screen on every single building in New York. It's crazy. I get it for like Times Square sort of thing. There should be a bunch of screens, but they're like flying around New York for a little bit. And there's like screens in the suburbs just everywhere. Now they don't seem natural. They just seem like they spawned in for the plot to have them there. That's just how it felt on screen. Like, I'm sorry. It brought me back to a moment in Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, where Lex Luthor broadcasts conveniently to a screen that Clark can see from a bathroom window to get his message across. Similar vibes. But anyways, yeah, he's broadcasting these now translated signals to Shalabal, and they're sort of used to shame her. Don't quote me on this part exactly, but basically the translations are serving to shove back all the guilt of all these planets dying back onto Shalabal, onto Silver Surfer. And this works. Between a speech from Johnny talking about how she's responsible for, ending all these lives, and how she was trying to save her family when she gave up her life to Galactus, he's just trying to save his family. This guilts her so much that she just leaves the planet. She was coming to get the baby, but between the messages that shamed her and Johnny's endearing speech, she's able to morally progress enough to the point where she's done serving Galactus. She runs away. She goes into what I call third act hiding mode. The writers put her away in the pocket with no explanation, no further explanation at least, and she's just waiting around until the plot needs her to show up at the perfect moment later on. So what we're left with is a single portal in the middle of New York City, the one conveniently not yet destroyed. We're left with no Silver Surfer. She's in the pocket for the third act. Keep that in mind. And we're left with an impending doom of Galactus coming to Earth himself to retrieve the child. So the Fantastic Four come back together and convene after all this shit went down. And Reed decides we have to bring Galactus to Earth. And I'm like, you have to bring him to Earth? My God, he's already coming to Earth. Like, there's no bringing him. He's already coming. So you don't need to bring him to Earth. He's already coming. My guy. Like, it made no sense to me. Why is he actively deciding that when he already knows Galactus is coming? What he really means is he has to trick Galactus. He figured out that he doesn't have to move the planet. He just has to move Galactus. So you're telling me this whole time you could have just teleported Galactus. Okay, why not fly one of those teleportation devices out to space, go into his ship with it, and just teleport him out the bitch? There's probably a lot of pseudoscience, fantasy reasons in the film, baked into the film, that I'm not seeing as to why they couldn't do that. But yeah, they figured out now that instead of teleporting the planet, they're going to teleport Galactus away from the planet. They're going to use the child as bait, set him up in the middle of the city underneath a teleportation device, and have Galactus, well, walk into the trap. Now, conveniently, the trap is going to be just big enough to fit Galactus, They got lucky with that one, right? Like, what if Galactus was too big for the contraption? What if he was too powerful for the contraption? Also, this is where Galactus becomes both smart and retarded at the same time. So Galactus comes down to Earth. They're set up with the portal trap. He's about to get to the trap. They're ready to pull the trigger on the teleportation device and send him into a black hole or whatever. And he stops his foot. And you're like, oh, Galactus knows they're pulling a bait and switch with the baby. The baby's not actually on the trap. Yeah, they set up the baby and they used the bait and switch. Forgot to tell you that. There's a baby on the trap. And Galactus notices, wait, I have X-ray vision. That's not the baby. The baby's over there. So he's smart enough to realize that the baby is not there, but he's not smart enough to realize that he was walking into a trap. Why stop taking the step? Like, did you only conveniently stop taking the step into the trap because you finally realized the baby wasn't there? Or did you realize that it was also a trap? Like, for some interdimensional cosmic being, it's very unclear how intelligent he actually is until it is revealed that he's actually retarded, because he walks away from the trap without destroying it, goes to get the baby, but he ends up just being pushed into the trap by Sue Storm anyways. Like, now that I'm saying this out loud for the first time, it's like really clear how retarded this endgame plot is. Damn, Galactus is a giant retard. I kind of want to title this video that. Anyways, yeah, they set up this trap for Galactus. He almost walks into it, realizes the baby is over there, goes to get the baby. The Fantastic Four use all their powers to try and stop him, but he eventually gets the baby anyways, and they're at their lowest point, and mother instincts kick in. Sue Storm goes full MCU girl boss and just pushes Galactus into the portal. Problem solved, right? But wait. Ace in the pocket, third act, Silver Surfer incoming. Galactus's hand comes out of the portal after being pushed into it. He's not done yet. He's back for seconds. But one of our heroes has the bright idea. I say bright because it's Johnny Storm. He wants to sacrifice himself by pushing Galactus into the portal with his body. But no, just like the Asian bitch from Star Wars The Last Jedi, she knocks Johnny out of the way and goes for the sacrifice play herself. Difference between Last Jedi and this is, well, Silver Surfer actually did something. Yep. She sacrifices herself. She punches Galactus. She punches Galactus into the portal and follows him through, saving the day for the Fantastic Four. But the strength required from Sue to initially push him into the portal killed her, almost, because her magical cosmic power baby revives her and saves the day. I'm clapping because the baby is literally clapping at the end. Cutest moment in the film. But yeah, I thought she was actually dead for a second. I thought they were going to kill off one of the members early on. Would have been fantastic. But nope. We just get this. Yep, the baby has cosmic revival powers. So now anytime someone dies in the Fantastic Four, if they don't get revived by the baby, I'm going to be upset. Okay? Was it a one-trick pony? Can he do it again? Time will tell. So yeah, that's the end of the third act. That's the resolution of the plot. The Fantastic Four are shown going back to their beloved, idolized state in the eye of the public by way of the television show that they were on in the beginning of the film. They're making another appearance as the Fantastic Five, but they get a threat in the middle of their reveal on the TV show, so they have to leave. Another villain is at large, and what do? They completely undercut this hasty, heroic moment to cap off the film with a moment of comedy that serves to completely obliterate the entire Fantastic Four with one single stroke. And I'll tell you how. I'll tell you why. So let's take it back 30 seconds. The Fantastic Four are about to be revealed to the public again for their heroic act of defeating Galactus by way of the television show, the talk show. They're behind the curtains. They're about to be revealed, and they get a threat alert on their watches, on their Fantastic watches, that says like, high threat, the world needs you, go save the day. So they ditch the TV show. They go to their Fantastic car, and instead of going to save the day immediately, they spend about 3 to 4 minutes buckling in the car seat for the baby. Not only are they taking their baby on dangerous missions, they already sent a fully pregnant woman on the most dangerous mission mankind has ever seen. Now they're taking the baby with them on dangerous missions at the end of the film. But that's not even the worst part. There's an urgent message, right? Urgent enough for you to miss your 30-second reveal on a TV show, live TV show. It's that urgent. You need to leave. But you're not only going to take your baby, you don't have any sort of childcare set up for the baby for when you go on dangerous missions, for when the world needs you most. Not only are you taking the baby with you, you're spending 3 to 5 minutes setting up the car seat before you go save the world again. Like, I get it, family, it's cute, blah, 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 blah. It totally ruins the Fantastic Four's characters because none of them have any urgency to save the day. They're serving the script that wants to show a funny moment at the end of the film, a funny family moment as they're all arguing over the setup of the car seat. This felt like a joke that would have played better in an after credits scene as they were maybe going to a wedding or something like that, or like going to a non-important event. Maybe something that was urgent but not life-threatening or world-ending, or I don't know. They get a villain threat on their watch and they spend 5 minutes setting up a car seat so they can take the baby with them. Are you not seeing how retarded this is? All the goodwill that was built up, the small amount that was built up through the actual first 3 acts of the film are completely tossed away just for sake of comedic family moment at the end. It just made the Fantastic Four seem so stupid, and it made them seem like puppets to funny scriptwriters rather than actual characters in that world. And yeah, that's the movie. They fly off with the baby after arguing over a car seat while the world is potentially in danger again. Cool. So let's recap this, guys. We got a super, super quick introduction to the Fantastic Four so that they can already be established as existing in this world for quite a while. That was fine. Completely okay. We get a sense of their powers. If you're new to the Fantastic Four, you get a sense of how they interact with the world slightly, but it is very underwhelming. The introduction of the Fantastic Four, something that is supposed to be taken with reverence, is washed over so quick, I almost forgot half of it. And my God, guys, I missed probably the most important retarded plot beat in the entire film. I said these rants are ridiculous and they go off kilter. I completely missed something. Let's circle back to that opening sequence of the film, okay? There is a guy in this movie called Mole Man. There is an entire civilization living underneath the planet, inside of the underground, okay? Established in about 30 seconds in the opening montage, in one of the opening scenes. Mole Man's underground humans society exists in this universe. Why? Well, because the third act needed the civilians to evacuate so none of them could die by Galactus. So they go underground with Mole Man. Cool. I just had to tell you that's a thing that happened in this movie. This also plays back to the similarities with Superman. In the Superman movie, they needed everybody to evacuate the city, so everybody left the city in 30 seconds. In this movie, they needed everybody to evacuate the city, so they went underground in 30 seconds because they set up Mole Man in 30 seconds in the beginning of the film, simply so they could use him as a plot device to evacuate people. Yeah, cool, I guess. He also terrorizes the city and gets defeated by the Fantastic Four, but then he sues for world peace or something like that. And also, let me go over this part of the beginning of the film as well that I missed. The entire world armies have been defunded at this world summit. They all agree to relinquish world army powers. World military powers have essentially been decentralized, decommissioned. It's now the Fantastic Four's responsibility to take care of the planet. How that's going to work, we don't know. We don't get to dive too deep into that aspect. But yeah, Fantastic Four have solved world peace outside of one very key nation, Latveria. Dr. Doom's home nation are missing in the World Summit that was seen in the beginning of the movie. They're not part of the world peace program. They didn't decommission their military. Now, why do I bring this up? Because we're now in the post-credits. And there is a very important Latverian man that we see on screen for half a second during the post-credits scene. Now, in the post-credit scene, Sue is seen taking care of the young baby who is now 4 years old or something like that. He's reading philosophical books at this point, but he's also a kid, so he's reading bedtime stories. She goes to get him one of the bedtime stories, and when she comes back, she sees a man holding the child or admiring the child or something, and it's none other than Dr. Doom holding his mask with a hood on. You don't get to see his face. It definitely wasn't even Robert Downey Jr. in the scene. He's supposed to be playing Dr. Doom, but they probably just had a stand-in actor with a hood on, and you see the Doom mask. Scene cuts. That was an important setup from the beginning of the film because we saw the Latvian country missing from the World Summit. Obviously, they still have militaristic power and maybe ideas of world domination, shall you say? But yeah, that was a post-credit scene set up for Doom, who will return with the Fantastic Four in Avengers Doomsday. Now that happened, and the theater was silent except for one dude next to me. This is what he said. Scene ends, we see Doom, and all we hear in the theater is, damn. That was it. Nothing. I heard maybe 3 laughs from chuckles from the audience this entire movie. No reactions to anything emotionally. And we got one guy saying, damn, at the most important reveal in the movie for the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward. That is not the sentiment we would have 5-6 years ago. That's just not it. It is clear the Marvel system is falling apart, and it is clear that they are not producing the same level of energy and inspiration in their films to leave the fans wanting more, to leave the fans truly invested in this film. Now, I know I broke down the plot very willy-nilly. I went through my scattered thoughts and feelings. This is mostly a feelings-based reaction on the film, not necessarily a super detailed breakdown, as I've only been to the theater once to see this film. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you could follow along. My ADHD brain is crazy. I did not script this one at all. A lot of times I write notes. I just went off the dome with this just to get my thoughts out there for you guys. But yeah, you guys tell me what I missed, what you want to see from upcoming Marvel, what this movie did for you, what this movie didn't do for you, why you loved it, why I'm wrong, why I'm correct, or why I'm both correct and wrong in the comments. Tell me everything. Try to be cool about it. All right. I don't want to have to come to the comments and slap you around. Oh, this is kind of fun to fight in the comments. Let's fight in the comments. I'll see you guys in the comments. I love you 3000. Have a great day. This has been a fantastic time.